Hello and welcome to Revelation Revealed in 10 minutes. And today we will start our third episode where we'll talk about an overview of the book of Revelation. We'll actually summarize the Revelation chapter 1 to 22 in 10 minutes, hopefully. And sometimes it's good to have a bird's eye view of what the book of Revelation is about. So first, I would like to show you that Revelation chapter 1, there we see an introduction to the seven seals. And this pattern you will see over and over again, that first you're introduced to the sanctuary and then a vision of sevens. And after the seven churches have come, in chapter 4 and 5, we get an introduction to the seven seals. And again, we see the sanctuary language, again, seeing the seven lamps there and also even the altar of incense. And then we have the seven seals in chapter 6 to 8 and verse 1. And after that, we get to Revelation chapter 8 and verse 2 to 6, which is it is an introduction to the seven trumpets. And again, there we see the sanctuary, or at least the furniture from the sanctuary, the altar of incense, as we saw in our last episode. And then we have the seven trumpets from chapter 9 to 11 and chapter 11, verse 17. And that's basically where it ends. And then I want to go through Revelation chapter 11 and verse 18, which is a very important verse because it actually summarizes the rest of the book of Revelation. So let us start going through these chapters one by one. So first of all, I just want you to pay attention to the word seven that is repeated 3 times here. We'll have a set of 7 3 times. The 7 churches, the 7 seals, and the 7 trumpets. What seven represents in the Bible, it is, maybe you have heard it before, but it's perfection, completion, but in a certain sense. It's actually a progression that starts with the first, goes to the second, third, fourth, fifth, and is completed on the 7th. We have many examples of this. We can just think of creation that was created in the first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, and then on the 7th day, everything was complete. The same when the Israelites went through the city of Jericho. They went it through 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and so on, and it was completed on the 7th day, and that's when the walls fell apart. The same with Naaman, also, if you remember, the Assyrian officer who had to dip himself in the river Jordan to get rid of his leprosy 7 times. He did it the first time, second time, nothing happens, nothing the third time, but on the 7th time it was completed. So we must understand that this is actually a progression that starts with the first church to the 7th church, first seal to the 7th seal. And we can see this clearly. And we should know that this is actually a timeline of prophecy that usually starts in the day of the prophet and ends around the second coming of Jesus. So let us go through Revelation chapter 2 to 3, which actually talks about the 7 churches. Shortly, all I want to say is that the first church starts with the apostolic church, and then we get to the church of Laodicea, which will be the end-time church before Jesus comes back. And everything in between there is a timeline of what will happen through this earth's history, from the time of Jesus when he left to heaven until when he's coming back again. And if we go to Revelation chapter 4 and 5, there we get an introduction to the 7 seals. And chapter 4 and 5, I will actually prove to you in some future lectures, talks about the day of Pentecost. And we'll see that the 7 seals starts in the apostolic times. And I know it's a very common theory or interpretation to think that Revelation chapter 4 and 5 talks about the rapture, and everything after the book of Revelation is talking about 7 years of tribulation. And I will tell you, it is clearly false. Because if you use the sanctuary, as we talked about in the last lesson, you can understand where we are in time. And then you do not commit the mistake of throwing everything in the book of Revelation into the future and thinking that we don't have a part in it. You will always be able to find you somewhere on the timeline in the book of Revelation. So Revelation chapter 6 and to chapter 8 and verse 1 talks about the 7 seals. The first seal talks about the apostolic times, when they went out and conquered and this white horse. And it ends, and we can clearly see this in the, at least both in the 6th seal, we can see allusions to the second coming, when the wrath of the Lamb is about to come, and all the people on, or the nations on earth here, cry that hide us from the face of the Lamb and from his wrath. And the 7th seal, which talks about silence in heaven. So this is clearly starts in apostolic times and ends around the second coming of Jesus. And can you guess maybe what the 7 trumpets might be about then? Well, yeah, the first trumpet actually starts with the destruction of Jerusalem. The trumpets here are a different perspective of the history, where we'll see how God will, in a sense, punish those people who have persecuted his people in each age. And the first trumpet, we'll see that it's clearly talking about the destruction of Jerusalem. And we see clearly in the 7th trumpet in Revelation chapter 11 and verse 15 and 16, Revelation chapter 11 and verse 15 and 16. There we can see that it's talking about the second coming of Jesus. So again, we see this completion, a start and finishing with the 7th. So that was the book of Revelation, the first half summarized in almost 5 minutes, but we will go through this in more detail. What about this Revelation chapter 11 verse 18 that I was alluding to? This is a very important verse. It actually helped me to understand the last chapter so much better. So let us read it. In Revelation chapter 11 and verse 18, it says here, and remember, this is a summary of the rest of the book of Revelation. There we read, and the nations were angry. And the next thing that happened is, and thy wrath is come, talking about God's wrath, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou should give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And I will take the rest of my 5 minutes now to prove to you that this is actually a summary of the rest of the book of Revelation. And this gives us a beautiful structure. And I can tell you that when you start to see this structure, you cannot but think that there must have been a great mind behind writing this book of Revelation. So the first thing that we read was that the nation would become angry. What does this mean? I mean, aren't nations always angry and fighting with each other? But this is actually a reference to nations being angry with the people of God. And what I want to tell you is that Revelation chapter 12, 13, and 14 is trying to explain why the nations are getting angry. And then later we'll see in Revelation chapter 15, 16, 17, and 18, and 19 is explaining the next thing that would happen, that the wrath of God would come in response of the nations getting angry. And the last thing that we saw there is that it is time to judge the dead and reward the prophets and saints and destroy those who destroy the earth. This we can see in Revelation chapter 20 and parts of 21. Quite amazing, as you will see. So let us dive in a little bit deeper into this nations being angry. So in Revelation chapter 12, what Revelation chapter 12 is about, we can see there. Yes, we can see the birth of Jesus there, but also we can see it's a flashback into how the great controversy started and how that great dragon Satan started the war in heaven and how it's translated to the earth. So it gives a little bit of a background on why the nations will become angry. Because Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12, what we read there is that when Satan is cast down to earth the second time, that means after the cross, it says there, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. But woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath. You see this? The theme of wrath, okay? Because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And we will see how the dragon will stir up the nations to become angry with the people of God. And Revelation chapter 12 and verse 17 summarizes all this in this sense. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, the church of God, right? and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, her children, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So here we can see that in the end times, the dragon will be specifically wrath against the people of God, for those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. That is what Revelation chapter 12 is about, and it ends with chapter 12, verse 17. But the question is, how will he make war with the people of God? That is what Revelation chapter 13 is for. It is to explain Revelation chapter 12 and verse 17, how he will make war. And there we can read how the dragon will give his seat unto the beast, or the Antichrist. But we'll see that the Antichrist will receive a deadly wound for some time, and then another beast will come up from the earth in Revelation chapter 13, the second portion, and he will eventually create an image of the beast and revive him again, and then they will implement the mark of the beast so that they can persecute the people of God in the end. So again, we can clearly see how these chapters are talking about how the nations are getting angry with the people of God and how they will persecute them in the end times. And chapter 14 is of the perspective of the people of God, what message they will give that will stir up the nations, what will make them mad. For instance, in Revelation chapter 14 and verse 8, we read about something called the second angel's message. And there it says, "And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." What this verse is telling us is that Babylon will give her wine to the nations that will make them angry. And when the people of God will preach against this message, they will become even angrier. So we can clearly see that Revelation chapter 12, 13, and 14 is about the wrath of the nations, or the nations becoming angry with the people of God. So the sum of it is that the nations will gather themselves up to destroy the people of God in the final conflict called Armageddon. And that is when God will intervene. So if we look upon our timeline here, what was the next thing that would happen after nations becoming angry? Well, the wrath of God would come in response. Okay, you are trying to kill my people. Okay, what you are meting out for them, I will let happen to you. So they will receive the wrath of God instead, and the people of God will be protected during this time, because it clearly says that the wrath of God is upon Babylon. So that is what Revelation chapter 15 is about. It's an introduction to the 7 last plagues, or the wrath of God. Chapter 16 describes all the 7 last plagues. Chapter 17 just zooms into the 6th and 7th plague, particularly the 6th plague. And chapter 18 as well, but from a different perspective. And chapter 19 is talking about the 7th plague. So we can clearly see it following the instruction from Revelation chapter 11, verse 18. And the last thing that would happen would be that it would be the time to judge the dead and reward the prophets and saints and destroy those who destroy the earth. And this is what we read in Revelation chapter 20. During the 1,000 years, the people of God, they will be resurrected. That means that the prophets and the saints will be rewarded, okay? And what will they do during these 1,000 years? Let us read Revelation chapter 20 and verse 12. It says there, "And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God." So they are dead. "And the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life." And here it talks about the wicked dead. "And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works." So we can clearly see that Revelation chapter 20 is talking about the time to judge the dead. It's during the 1,000 years when the righteous people of God will see why the wicked ones could not be in heaven. What secret sins they had, because they will have questions when they come to heaven. And in the end, they will be resurrected, the wicked, and in end of chapter 20, they will be destroyed. As it's written here, "Destroy those who destroy the earth." The final conflict will be ended and the sinners will be destroyed. And this is the book of Revelation summarized in 10 minutes, maybe 11. I don't know exactly how much it was. But you can clearly see now the bird's eye view, and we'll start dissecting this into details in our coming episodes. And of course, chapter 22 and the end of 21 is talking about the new Jerusalem. And that is something to look forward to